Hello. I was in the Congo in the month of February and March, and one of the things I did was to visit the Displaced Women's Project that some of you are familiar with, and I want to just bring you up to date on some of that. In 2018, there was some major tribal conflict just north of the city of Bunia, and because of that, there was about 200,000 displaced people that came into the city. And they were mostly in huge refugee camps. People who've been living all their lives in the country, growing stuff in their gardens in order to survive, now are in a city, and they've got to learn a whole new set of skills. The church, one of the churches in Bunia, Pastor Lumago is there, and it's called the Ngezi Church. They wanted to reach out and help some of these displaced people who were, in crisis. And they began providing them with food and so on, and they asked us for our help. At that point, our church contributed, I think it was something like $18,000 worth of food and supplies for these displaced people. And then after that, the Ngezi Church observed that these displaced people were there, and they didn't know how to make a living. Most of them were from the country. They were used to farming, and now they were in the city. How could they make a living? And so the Ngezi Church decided to develop a training program, particularly for the women, because they needed a way of making a living, as well as they needed something to get their kids off the streets and doing productively. And so they started a school, a sort of a school. It's there's two sections. One is for sewing, teaching how to sew, tailoring. The other is for cooking, culinary arts. And the idea was to have 3 classes a week in each of these sections, from 3 to 5, 3 times a week. For the sewing class, it's 6 months. For the cooking class, it's 4 months. And they set up this program. They've completed round 1 of training. In other words, they've had graduation from the sewing class of 23 people, and 21 from the culinary arts class. 80% were displaced people, and then there were some people from the church or local people that also were trained. So they've completed the first round of training, and they're into the second round, probably about 2 months into the second round. The women who've taken these courses couldn't be more thankful. With the cooking classes, they teach them 40 recipes, and so from day 1, they can start using this in making stuff and selling it in the market and putting their kids to work, selling stuff. And it's been great. The sewing class is a bit slower. It takes a while to learn how to put things together and to sew things up. But once they've completed the course, they're really good. They know how to sew clothes for their kids. They know how to make dresses and uniforms for schools and for choirs, and there's no limit to the amount of work they can do in terms of that. Furthermore, as you help people, you have a chance to share the gospel with them. And so the church has used this as a way of evangelizing. So they helped these displaced people learn new skills, and they also share the gospel with them. They have Bible studies as a part of this program. They're growing spiritually, and a number of them have become members of the church and so on. So there's an incredible value, and we have this opportunity to reach across the ocean and help displaced people in Bunya. You know, when this program was set up, they came up with a budget. The church was going to handle some, they were going to get some local contributions, and they were looking to us to help them to the tune of $10,000. And at that point, our women talked about it and promoted it, and I think we raised about $6,000 at that point. And that has helped them get started. They can't express enough their gratitude to us for helping them in this way. The initial project was $10,000, and we've contributed $6,000. They still need that additional $4,000. But now that the program is enlarging, and there are graduates who come and use the machines during the week, as well as people being trained, the need is they need another 15 sewing machines. I think they had 11. And they cost about $150 each. And then they need 2 stoves for cooking, for baking, and 14 bolts of cloth. And you know, all of that comes to around $4,000, which would help them enormously to make this ongoing program viable and to be able to function on its own. This project has made a deal with a number of schools saying, you know, we'll provide your uniforms and we'll sell them to you cheaper. And that's why they need these bolts of cloth to begin with. But once they've produced it and people have paid for this and so on, it should be able to support itself, be financially self-sufficient. It's this last part that makes it self-sufficient. I have a friend who used to say, a lot of good work is lost for want of a little more. A lot of good work is lost for want of a little more. And with this project, it really needs extra sewing machines, and it needs cloth to work with. It's sort of what you call seed money for making a whole enterprise go. And anyway, we have this opportunity to reach across the ocean and help displaced people in Bunya. And we appreciate what the church has done, and Pastor Lumago especially is appreciative, and anything that you feel God leading you to do it will be really helpful. Thank you.